Hi, everybody, and welcome. Today I have a special guest. Gina is with us. Hi, Gina.
Hi, Neha. Good to see you.
Yeah, great to see you, too. We are in Aspen, and I met Gina last year when she invited me to speak at a Lead with Love event, and it's a group that she has founded, and I'm going to let her tell you a little bit about that. She's got a couple interesting things going on that we think you might be interested in. So, Gina, will you tell us a little bit about Lead with Love?
Yes, of course. And I love that we're both in this Aspen Valley and looking out in these beautiful mountains together and knowing that because of the technology that we can be broadcasting to people all over the world. So I just want to send a little bit of the beauty and intelligence of nature to anybody who's watching right now, that you just have an opportunity to take a deep breath in and think of the forest and the trees and bring that beautiful energy into your heart. Lead with Love is based in Aspen, Colorado, and that's a beautiful thing, but it also, I found that it creates a little bit of a bubble. And we are in a place that is white and wealthy and wonderful. And I just say that based on what's happening in the world right now. I think it's taking more of an effort to really make sure we're tuned in and engaged with what's happening, because it's easy to check out when you live in a beautiful place. The basic needs are met in my family. And so I think Lead with Love, for me, it's a nonprofit organization, and it really was born from my heart of knowing that we are all connected. In a sense, I really do believe the yoga tradition, that we are all one, the Vedanta, in the sense that we come from the same stuff. So we may look different on the outside, we may have different belief systems, but inside the essence of each one of us, I think that there is a deep, deep connection, and that is our essence, our humanity, our soul. And Lead with Love is based here in this beautiful space of Aspen. We work digitally and all over the world doing events that are meant to raise consciousness. It's really bringing our body, mind, and spirit from a place of fear into a place of loving, so that we can truly lead with love in everything that we do. And I think, based on the way I decided to start this conversation, it's easier in a place like Aspen when basic needs are met, and there's no doubt about that. And I think through the studies I've done with spiritual psychology and yoga and meditation, some work with you and with Raj Sisodia on conscious capitalism, I do really believe, no matter what the circumstances, that we have a choice how we respond. And through some education and some commitment to tools, that we truly can make that choice to lead from a higher place. So I think that's good for now. I mean, our stuff is all digital these days. We used to do tons of in-person live events, which we miss very much. But I'm excited that we have this digital platform.
And I think right now, really what we're learning as a world, it was hard enough to be vulnerable when we were in person. Mm-hmm. And now the challenge has become, how do we create authentic conversations online? And so there's even more of a disconnect, right? The next generation, right, that's growing up right now, and the millennials, like, they grew up on technology. And a lot of times this was their norm. For us, it's a really big deal to not be connected in person together. And it's an added challenge to do that. And one thing I really love about Lead with Love and your mission really is, right now you're offering programs that anybody can access and that can empower and engage anybody. So as we move forward, I definitely want to hear some of those and how you're doing that. Why don't we start with setting our intention? So what would our intention be right now for this experience that we are going to have and create together?
Well, I think that's just such a beautiful tool when you were talking about how to connect digitally, is to make sure that we take a pause before we kind of dive into stuff and just really connect, even though it's through a screen, with the other people. So even those of you, if you're watching this, just to take a moment, try to put away the distractions and just be with us for that moment. So to me, the intention that I have is to be fully present in this space, and to open my mind and heart to hear things that I need to hear, and to speak things that may be of service to others. So that's the intention that I have for our little time here together.
Oh my gosh, that was so beautiful. My intention in this call is to be present, absolutely, to speak to anything that arises, so to be authentic, and to be curious. So that those three things together always create magic for me. So I wanna stay true to those, no matter how many of these I've ever done, right? Each one kind of illuminates blind spots for me and curiosities and learnings. So I want to be present for that.
Well, I love that. And you're such an expert and a whiz, a real brilliant person, with a degree in engineering, a medical doctor. Every time I talk to you, I learn so much. And I just think for those of you who have chosen to tune in, just to take a moment to really connect and listen. And that power of presence is incredible. And it really is what brings me into my heart. When it's slowing down a little bit, lots of times.
Yeah. It's like almost like we can run really quickly in our physical world and in our mind, but when we slow down, it's almost like getting back in the elevator and just slowly dropping into our hearts. It feels like, yeah. So let's, people are experiencing a lot of anxiety, stress, but most of all, I find that it's the pace and the amount of change that is causing a disruptive energy, which could be paralyzing people, having them feel powerless, as well as in that crumbling is an opportunity. But we don't often think of that in the beginning because it feels so overwhelming. It feels like a tsunami, right? What are you doing to help take care of you in order to serve and do things like lead with love and, put on programs for other people?
Well, I think you and I have talked about this, and I know that you speak about this often. It's this sort of paradigm of me, we, and world. And
you want me to do that first? Should I do that first and then you lead in? Do you want me to show them what you're talking about?
Yeah, you can, and then I'll talk about it too. It's just in my version of it,
Sure.
Okay,
sure. Well, hold on. I'll give that. All right. So let's talk about, if I'm asking you, this is called Me, We, World. And what we're both talking about is that a lot of times in the world, people want things to be black and white. They want them to be simple. They want to move on to the next thing. And so there's this way that we say, well, just tell me what it is. And they're taking single vision. Like in a company, it would be the equivalent of well, how do we make budget and make profits? That's all that matters. Versus somebody who's a leader looking at triple vision, which would be purpose, people, and profits. That's triple vision. So what I think in our lives right now is really important is this idea of expanding from our own single vision to triple vision. Now, if you're really struggling, if right now your basic needs are not met, you need to stay at the me level. You need to stay at don't go out and try to help other people. If you're drowning, you don't want to be trying to grab onto other people and get them to shore, right? You need to be swimming first. So this idea of me and healing me is a foundational piece. It's a piece where, do you know your physical boundaries? Do you understand how you think and where you get triggered? Do you know how to navigate your emotions, anxiety, stress, overwhelm? And do you feel that your life has purpose and meaning? That's all the me. It's like a building having a strong foundation. And that's we're building the building of our world. So when I was asking Gina, what are you doing, right, for yourself? What I'm talking about is the heal me piece. And then once you do that, you have the ability now to create a sustained and large impact for we, which is your partner, your family, your ever-widening circles, concentric circles around you of community and country, and ultimately to the world. But you cannot do that without a strong foundation of healing me. So heal me, serve we, change the world. So go ahead, Gina, and now I think that you were right. That was probably a framework we should give them so that you can now discuss what you're doing.
Well, and I love seeing the visual and the way that you've made these spirals. I hadn't seen that before, but it's just such a enlivening kind of feeling, because what you're saying is really what the basis of Lead with Love is and how we've always operated. You know, it's that same adage, you got to put the oxygen mask on yourself first. And I do have a lot of friends out there, and so many well-meaning people that are just out there fighting the good fight, but they are just so depleted, and energetically it just doesn't work. And so I think still we're stuck in this kind of paradigm or this taboo that taking care of yourself is selfish and you have to be giving. And the martyr archetype with women in particular is so pervasive. So I am such an advocate, just like you, in the sense of like, it is so important to take care of ourselves, our basic needs. This is psychological, it gets into the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which probably most people are somewhat aware of. And then in the Vedanta and in the yoga tradition, we talk about it from the chakra level of energy centers in our bodies. If we're really in that root chakra, that really base energy level, which I think is where I would say it seems like most people are, it's a fight or flight, it's a survival response, it's us versus them, very black and white. It's essential for our survival, so it's not as if we want to get rid of that. It's like you can't get rid of the ego. I mean, it is important and it helps you survive. But I think what we are advocating and educating about is that these basic needs really need to be addressed. And so we at Lead with Love kind of have these different prongs, and one of our areas of focus is on well-being. And I love the term well-being because it's not just wellness, which is more like a spa term and you're getting a massage or whatever, which is amazing and wonderful. But well-being is a really deeper term about how are you not only in your physical body, which is really essential, you know, that you have your blood and everything kind of, not a lot of inflammation in your body and all these things from physical well-being, but it goes into emotional well-being, how you're able to cope. And also this sense of community, and you touched on this in the we part. I mean, do you have friends that you can count on? Do you have a sense of support in your community? And then another thing that you
and also that community, have you outgrown it? So it's like you might have the same people you've been with for a really long time, but something doesn't feel quite right. And so the real question becomes, have you outgrown the circles that you're in, your relationship, your friends, your work community, your job? These are scary questions for people, you know?
Well, great stuff. I mean, you went from being a medical doctor, which is such a huge amount of time, energy, and money, and then decided this is actually a path I have more energy for, which is around the speaking and teaching on communication and things like that. That is a very brave move. And I think something that a lot of people struggle with. It's such a good point. To me, it comes into that sense of like meaning and purpose in life. I'm a very purpose-driven person, and I think that brings a lot of meaning into my life. And if the people that you surround yourself with are not people that are kind of in that same level of purpose and growth mindset, you know, a learning orientation, it's so healthy to kind of continue to move and try to find your tribe and your people. Which is why I love you.
I love you. Like, oh, well, thank you. I'm going to take a minute to let that in.
Yeah.
It's almost like a really simple way of me saying this is when I was in my 20s, what I wanted to do was drink and go to the bar. And so I attracted people who wanted to do that as well. Nothing wrong with that. It's a different lifestyle. The beach, alcohol, you know, the bar, friends, lots of fun. By the time I was in my 30s, I really started to become much more reflective and introspective. And I started to ask myself what I wanted to build in my life. And so while those friends were, I don't need to get rid of them, I ended up seeing them less frequently and only for the times when I really wanted to go out and do the things that they liked, right? But you'll get this restlessness inside you if you start to realize going out isn't as much fun as it used to be. If the conversation doesn't stimulate and engage you like it used to. These are all ways that we oftentimes just kind of gloss over it. Well, now we have this global timeout that we're in. And I call Mother Nature basically said, left to your own devices, you were going to use up the planet and your resources. You were going to go faster and faster and tell each other that the more you did was better and do more with less every year. And now there's this moment where when you are misusing resources, including your own body and the pace at which you're choosing to move, somebody's got to step in and put you in timeout. When we were little, it's like, you know, you go in the corner, you're in a timeout for hitting your sister, right? Right now, it's like I feel like we're in this global timeout that is this actually sacred time. We're not in trouble. It's more like if we use our time and time out to reflect, what gifts might it give us? And during this time, I think a lot of people are floundering, like they don't feel supported because they're looking around and the people that are around them are either reacting in a way that doesn't resonate with them, or they are the same tools that they've been using for a long time and they aren't working. It's almost like the chaos of the world has exceeded the tools in their toolbox.
Yeah.
And so I know that part of what you do in the world is help people. I do too. And I thought it might be good for us to kind of talk a little bit about what are the opportunities that they might be able to get some help, in a way, resources, authentic community. And so I'll just name one of mine. Mine is something new that just started this week called Conscious Community Cafe Online. CC Cafe, so 3 C's in a row, cccafe.online. You can read about it, but it's really about creating authentic community conversation. One thing we teach, so this week we taught about what is anxiety and how do you heal it. But the rest of the time is open dialogue, Q&A, and I do it alongside Elise Cortez. She's an incredible human coach, purposeologist. She's like, helps people find purpose and meaning. So I know you'd love her too, Gina. But anyway, we don't know how often we're going to be doing this, but we're going to see the reaction, the need, and we're going to assess and pivot. But it's cccafe.online. It's free, and you're invited. So just check it out and see when the next one is. So what would you say? What would be resources or a way that you help yourself in the we world?
Well, I go to your website and click on your videos. That's one thing. So much good information there, and it's all free, which is so awesome. And it makes me think, like, how do we not just preach to the choir? You know, with Lead with Love, we have this amazing offering that we just started 2 weeks ago, and the community that it's drawing is like our existing community, and they're really engaged in it, and I'll tell you more about it in a minute. And my vision is to really broaden the reach, and so that's another intention that I have in sharing with you, and we're going to host you on the show August 19th. So we've created a campaign called Love in Action. And love in action is just really so important, because we can be loving with ourselves, and we were talking about the me, and you get to that place where you feel good about yourself, and that's wonderful. That takes a lot of work sometimes, but
even at this stage, just unhooking from your anxiety and paralysis, right? When you can unhook from that and you start to feel like a little more normal, right?
Well, yeah, and I mean, normal isn't really what I want to aspire to, but I think if you are obviously in a dark place or something, normal probably sounds amazing. Right. But it's such a good point. On our last call, we talked about people, you know, are you feeling overwhelm, and are you feeling helplessness, or are you feeling empowered? You know, and a lot of people are in the overwhelm category. And because that's how I felt, overwhelmed with so much information, so much chaos going on, I said, I want to start a weekly call. It's 12 to 1 every Wednesday. It's called Love in Action. It's hosted live.
Is that Aspen time, Mountain time?
It's Mountain Standard Time. So the idea is to take your lunch hour, one hour a week. And what's great is we have some CEOs that have joined our call, and they have already incentivized and asked all their employees to join, and that they would pay them that hour lunch, which ideally this is what we want to see happen, is that the employers start to say, you know what, this is worth your time. I want you to show up to this call while you're having your lunch. And we really, at Lead with Love, we take a topic and we research it up, down, sideways, and we look for areas that need our loving action. So we call it heart-centered leadership. And on the call, you get this sort of formula of a connecting, centering exercise. So you come into the space of your heart. You get background on a cause. It's really important. We work with social justice, environment, children, and advocacy of children, and civic engagement and voting, because we think that is so important, especially right now. So those are our areas that we pick causes from. And then the attendees get a little bit of a synopsis and bullet points. So it takes all the millions of articles and all these things that are out swirling in the news, and we really make it tangible. and talk about the cause and why it's important that we check in. And then during the call, we take about 15 minutes where we all mute ourselves on Zoom and we make those actions. We call the representatives, you call the DA, you call the mayor, you call the city council, and we have scripts that we've written that are like, here's what you can say. And then at the end, we just close with reflection, like, let's share about it. So there's this sense of community and connection, that you're not out there alone, but that you are just taking those little baby steps to do something so that you're not paralyzed and feeling impotent with there's so many problems, what can I do? This is the antidote to that. It's joining together as community, it's taking inspired action, and it's changing the world to the one we want to see. And I agree with you with this sacred pause. It is such an opportunity for us to go, we need to engage in things that are important, and we can't just sit on the sidelines unless we're not well personally. Then we can and we should. Right. So it's just like you said, fill yourself, find those tools, and there's so many ways to do that, and then meet together with other people that are on purpose and inspired, and take those actions to change the world into what we want to see. Because otherwise we just sit around complaining and bitching, and it's really, really not doing anything.
Well, I love this because really, what I was thinking of in the diagram we showed earlier is, one thing is we're all connected, right? And the second thing you're saying is know where you are on that spiral, right? Mm-hmm. Do you need to go downward?
Right.
Or do you need to go upward? Are you ready to go upward? You always go down first to make sure you're grounded. And then when you're ready to take action, do it in a we to impact the world. And I think this is just so special because one of the other things you said is there's judgment around self-care. First of all, you said it's not a spa, right? Going to the spa is a nice thing to do, but it doesn't create well-being. That's not what we're talking about. So self-care is not selfish. It's self-full, self-full. And just like you wouldn't ask a car to go across country and take you from New York to California without any gas in it, nor can you ask someone to start taking these kinds of actions outward until their tank is full. And so I think there's a way that because we're all connected, it's where are you on the spiral, because it's all one spiral. It's all one spiral. And so knowing where we are, taking care of where we are, and when you do that, knowing that you are serving the collective.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter where you are on the spiral. It's just that you know where you are, and then you honor that. You don't judge yourself for that. And when you're ready to take the next step, there's places like Love in Action. There's communities like Conscious Community Cafe online, right? How does somebody get in touch with Love in Action or sign up? How do they do that?
Well, the best way to do is to follow at I Lead With Love on Instagram or Facebook, or go to our website. We make it really easy. You do need to register, and it's just super easy. And even if you can't come live, I find I'm so impressed by our team and the kind of research we're putting into these documents. So even if you can't go, come live, you can come and look at the whole outline of what we prepared, and you can do the actions on your own. Now, I think
it's like a synopsis. It's almost like Cliff Notes of what's been happening, but everybody's done the work for you.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, it's just like there is so much overwhelm that we were tuning into. We thought, well, this is one thing we can do. We think we're a trusted source out there by, what we've accomplished and done in our lives and how we curate things. And so the trusted source is like, here, we're going to do a lot of this legwork for you because we know you're really busy. And here's what you can do. I love the live. I think it's so much more energy and so much more fun, but it's not realistic for everyone to take an hour midday on a Wednesday. And then you look at your priorities and you look at your boss and you say, hey, I want to take this 1 hour. It's important to me. Would you support it? Those are the kind of things we want to see shift in the culture, in business, and in our personal lives, that you spend hours and hours scrolling Instagram and you say you have no time. I don't have any time. I'm so overwhelmed. But you got to start auditing what you do with your time, because those wasted hours of just kind of scrolling and mindless stuff can be spent doing something that really will uplift your heart. I've loved on the reflections after the call, people kind of going from that overwhelm and hopelessness, and then we pull them at the end and go, you know, how do you feel now? And there's just a bubbly energy. I mean, it's just a beautiful energy of like, I did something, like I called this person, it was scary, but it was cool. And then they answered the phone and I started crying, or, you know, like to be able to share those experiences too. It's like, you've got to put love in action, because when it's idle, again, it just doesn't move and it doesn't create that kind of healing energy that's possible.
Yeah. Well, I think right now, if there's any time to do it, it's now. Like, crises in our lives are milestones. They are opportunities to crack us and our hearts wide open. It's a time to take risks and try things when all the rules are changing. When you have now realized that loving somebody means you don't see them, don't hug them, and don't go to their funeral. That's what loving them means. We're in a whole new world now. And if we could create the rules, if we could create them in the way that we want to, what would we do? And so the question is, what would you do? What is your vision for the world? How are you using this global timeout? I hope you've really enjoyed this experience with Gina and I. If you'd like to get more of this, if you'd like to meet people who are thinking this way, who are using this time out to do something more than just endure it and hope we come out on the other end fine, if you want to be with empowered souls and do this, please, please, please join us at cccafe.online. Join us at I Lead with Love on Instagram. Is that what it was? It was on Instagram. Yep. And we would love to have you. So let's use this time to heal ourselves, serve our community, and ultimately create the world that we want to live in. Thank you, Gina. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks.
Okay. Take care. Until next time.
Thanks. Bye.